All right, the hype train is still rolling. I thought it would be done by now with a Cleveland Browns draft pick. So we are obviously going to talk about that, and then we are going to jump in, and I'm going to talk about why I think this was a even better draft class than most people are giving it credit for. But also, we're just going to talk about what the outlook is for the Browns. And if you're new to this channel, we're Lions fans. We are. Me and my buddy Chris started another channel called Sports Talk Detroit over 4 years ago. And then almost 3 years ago now, we started this channel, Sports Talk Extra. And we've done a ton of Browns videos on here. And the main goal in that is we want to talk about teams that the national media just kind of ignores. And the Browns obviously sit in that. There's been a lack of respect, I think, for the Browns organization. But in many ways, the Lions and Browns organizations over the years have really mirrored each other. Erie Brothers, I think all of you guys say down there in Cleveland. And so it's one of those things that as we look at it, we understand the Browns fans. We get you, all right? Yes, we've had recent success, but there's reason to believe that there could be some similar success in Cleveland coming up as long as you solve your quarterback problem. And I think it's starting to get to a point where enough people are starting to talk about Shedeur Sanders that maybe, just maybe, the hype train is getting real. All right. Again, now CBS Sports went out and talked about players that are surprising in OTAs. And it says, all aboard the Shedeur Sanders hype train. Here it goes again. It says Sanders is having a strong start to minicamp, creating a lot of hype regarding whether he can earn the starting job in week 1. The quarterback stats are there. Keep in mind, all players are wearing shells and shorts. We understand that. It's not surprising to see a player look good in the early portion of OTAs. Sanders, however, did go 9 of 14 with 3 touchdowns in the second OTA practice open to the media this week. While third-round rookie Dillon Gabriel went 11 for 20 for 3 touchdowns as well. Training camp is going to be the telltale sign. Okay, that's good news. But then you come around and you hear Tommy Rees. All right, and there's a quote from him as well. And that quote says the following. Let's get in here so you can see it even better. He says, you can see them all winning the job, I think, right? Like, it sounds like a guy who's real confident in what he's saying. Sorry, let me get my picture out of the way there. You can see them all winning, I think, right? And so in terms of the competition, we're so early in the process. We're so early in evaluating that, yeah, I think, we have a good group of guys that continue to push one another. And by the time September rolls around, we'll be ready to go. He's fully admitting we're not ready to go right now, right? Like, look, we know what this quarterback room looks like. We know that it's one of those things where you're just hoping, maybe praying, right? Like, and you're just finding a way that one of these guys, Shedeur Sanders or Dillon Gabriel, please be the guy. Joe Flacco's 40 years old. We know he isn't the answer. Kenny Pickett is not the answer. He could be the answer as a backup going forward, but your hope is that you found your starter and backup late in the rounds. Now, here's the truth when it comes to quarterbacks. Quarterbacks who are selected late don't often do well, except, let me give you a small sample here. There is the other side of it that quarterbacks that have a ton of starting experience in college tend to do well and tend to be ready really fast. Dillon Gabriel has a ton of starting experience in college. Shedeur Sanders has a ton of starting experience in college. All right, another guy that I don't think had the tools to be a top 10-15 pick last year was Bo Nix, but he went because Sean Payton fell in love with him. Obviously, the Browns didn't completely fall in love with Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders. If they had, they would have drafted them much earlier. But what if these could be guys that could be serviceable NFL starters going forward? And when you see some of the quick little snippets on Twitter, when you see what Shedeur Sanders is doing, the concerns and the fears of, oh, he doesn't have the arm strength, or maybe he's not as mobile as we thought, or whatever that looks like, all of that goes away. And this idea of he's going to get himself into trouble and make bad mistakes. The only early mistakes that we've seen have been from Gabriel, which you would expect out of a rookie. And I even look back to Dillon Gabriel, and I look back to him at Oregon. And I remember Big Ten Network does this thing, and you're Cleveland Browns. There's probably a lot of Ohio State fans, so you probably remember it's the Big Ten Network tour bus. And they went to Oregon last year, and Dillon Gabriel looked like a deer in headlights. Like he had transferred in. He was still trying to pick up the offense. He was trying to pick up the concepts. He even flat out said in an interview that it was like advanced trigonometry or something like that, but he thinks he's starting to figure it out. This is a guy with Dillon Gabriel. Once he figures it out, he figures it out. He ended up being just fine for Oregon, but it takes him a minute to figure out. Shedeur Sanders has been around football his whole life. Like, he may seem nonchalant about it. He may not seem like the most mature guy, but he's obviously been able to pick up on the system that's been run always. So the question that I have for all of you is the hype real? Who is your preferred quarterback coming out as the starter? Is it Joe Flacco because you would like, and you liked what he did at the end of the year 2 years ago, and you would like to see this team be able to compete? Or are you on the side of like, no, I want Shedeur Sanders or Dillon Gabriel to be good enough right away that they would be the starter, and then let's hope that they're good going down the line. These are some of the things that I want to, that I just say, hey, what is the thought process? But I think it's good news. I also think when you look at your draft picks and the way you went about it, this is what everybody's forgetting. Everybody's saying, oh, well, in the 3rd and 5th round, they went quarterback and quarterback. So everybody forgets about the fact that they had 4 picks before Dillon Gabriel was ever selected. And they went trenches with Mason Graham. They got a linebacker that they needed in Schlesinger, right? Very good player. You go running back of the future with Quinshon Judkins, and then you go tight end of the future with Harold Fannin Jr., or at least receiving threat in Harold Fannin Jr. And then in between the 2 quarterbacks, you go with another running back. You are rehauling in this draft. You went defense with the first 2 picks. Help because you have stars on defense, but you needed to fill in the gaps. So you did that. And then you went you completely revamped your running back room, which with the aging Nick Chubb, you needed to do. So, and then you took a couple flyers on quarterbacks late in the draft and when you drafted Shedeur Sanders, usually you use 5th round picks for guys that are primarily special teams players and backups anyway. So the only pick I don't understand is why you go Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd if then you're going to go Shedeur Sanders. But remember, this is a good draft class. Almost every grade individually graded out as an A or an A- or a B+. And that's because they were good draft picks. Then people are just like, why do you take 2 quarterbacks, right? In the Athletics, the Beast, he was rated number 2. Number 2, Shedeur Sanders at a quarterback position. Did he go number 2? Not even close. But what if he is? And what if the reason people weren't taking him is something different than his skill set, and he ends up just being this guy who understands how to ball? I really think there's a world where that's possible, and that's great news for the Browns. All right, thanks for watching. Hopefully we'll see you on the next one.